Here is your latest RTS news, and it's both hot and cold. You will learn why during this video overview of the newest facts about your favorite and most anticipated upcoming RTS games, already released ones, as well as some mods and demos which are worthwhile checking out. Links included in the description. First up is a brand new single-player campaign mission in Broken Arrow. The developers and publishers have kindly sent me the game's newest work-in-progress version to showcase to you all, and I'm happy to say gameplay, visuals and sound design have come together beautifully in this snippet of the campaign experience you can expect to enjoy during this summer. Because, in case you didn't know, Broken Arrow is launching with single-player, skirmish and multiplayer in June of this year on Steam. This mission was straightforward in both story and design, with quite a power trip because of the top-tier tanks equipped with the most modern defense systems acting as your tip of the spear, while your objective is to clear one settlement after another and make safe a corridor for a much bigger vehicle convoy to get through. Near the end of it, you even get attack helicopters added to your command and blast away enemy tanks and IFVs at distance, but also get to learn just how fragile these airframes are if they get too close to enemies. This is basically a marketing demo, and it came just before the reveal of Broken Arrow's Striker Cavalry Regiment, which is now added to the available specialization decks for the United States faction. This deck is designed with highly mobile units which have top-level lethality mixed with highest maximum speed on the battlefield. Hopefully there will be another demo open to the public and a chance for you to play through this campaign mission yourself, as well as the tutorial level which was also part of this demo. I personally have very high hopes for this game, despite its lack of base building, as it has the potential to bring in a lot of players who have been avoiding such gameplay for years. But if lack of base building is simply a bridge too far for you, then both Tempest Rising and Sanctuary Shattered Sun are going to be more to your liking, and since Tempest Rising had a new demo, let's go over to that one first. From February 24th to March 10th, we were given the opportunity to play a total of 4 campaign missions and on 3 different maps in the skirmish game mode against the AI bots using both factions. It was the most complete demo release of this game so far, just lacking multiplayer, which was available as a sort of a beta playtest just over a month ago. Since then, the developers have read a mountain of feedback and done a few gameplay corrections to address the most critical and often mentioned feedback received from players. First of all, they have increased the zoom distance in the skirmish mode to let you see more of the battlefield at a glance. But do note, this isn't something they could implement in the campaign because it would mess up the gameplay design there, which is already finalized. Next, they have improved the behavior of GDF's resource harvesters to make them smarter when choosing where to offload their fresh Tempest and prevent delivery slowdowns due to the dynamic mismatch of the number of refineries and harvesters. If you want to refresh your knowledge about the game, its mechanics and gameplay, I have gameplay guides on both factions in my Tempest Rising playlist, which is linked up here and down in the description. 2 additional changes they have done to make the game easier to read and control were the allowing of rebinding of keys, especially for the build grid menu, and improving the visibility of bars showing units' ammo and health. They have promised to keep working on these and other feedback received from previous demos, so I hope you will use this chance to play the newest version of Tempest Rising, both the campaign missions and skirmish vs the AI bots, and leave more fresh feedback for them. As for Sanctuary Shattered Sun, both its free beta and paid early access now have planned release dates. You can expect to be able to play its free beta, which launches alongside its Kickstarter in July of 2025, meaning you do not have to support the game to test out its gameplay, but if you like what you see, I hope you do. As for the actual paid early access version, which is so far only planned for Steam, it should become available in July also, but in 2026. You can already play Sanctuary's pre-alpha version, but that requires being the developer's supporter on Patreon at tier 4 or tier 5. That pre-alpha is the version I am playing here, and it gets updated from time to time, meaning you can see the progress the developers are making with your donated funds. Latest such updates improved the visuals of the game, fixed bugs, and introduced a showcase game mode, which is used for previewing all of the effects and content in this version. Now I want to talk about the latest game info learned from the second developer Q&A session, which is also available as a lengthy video on their official YouTube channel. Most interesting bits of info for me were, for example, the fact that to prevent networking performance problems, the developers are going to use a hybrid approach in multiplayer, meaning that some in-game calculations will be done by the fastest PC currently engaged in the match, and the rest will stay as traditional lockstep networking, meaning each player's PC has to keep their game up to date in the match. Also, when playing multiplayer in Sanctuary Shattered Sun in regions with poor access to Steam servers, you will be able to use direct IP connections for LAN and peer-to-peer matches. For those players who enjoy skirmish more, important news relates to the AI, which is designed to adapt to player tactics, is scripted for campaign missions, and future modding support will allow talented modders among you to create custom AI behaviors. But certainly the most interesting AI news for me is a potential development of an AI helper. This would allow you to assign groups of units to AI sub-commanders, allowing them to manage specific tasks, like defense or scouting, while you focus on the big picture. There is a lot more info there concerning super weapons, experimental units, and game-ending tier 5 units, as well as the weather, levolution, and terrain mechanics, so I would suggest you check out the entire developer Q&A video. I will certainly keep you updated on all things about this incredible future indie gem in future videos, and if you have missed any of the previous dedicated videos I made on this game, do check out the link up here and down in the description. Now, shockingly enough, for this episode of RTS News, I have found one homeworld-inspired space RTS, and have been pointed towards a second one by one of your fellow viewers and fans. That one is titled Nullspace, and the first trailer shows off so many aspects of gameplay that I was incredulous about it and close to thinking this looked too good to be true. Because not only does this game have different classes of spaceships, from fighters to huge destroyers, squadrons of ships which can use formations, 3 distinct factions and direct ship control, but also base building, research, 3D environmental objects which ships can fly through, and a promise of a story-driven campaign. This is almost a AAA game features list from an indie studio I have never heard of before and which seems to have previously made very different types of games. This is one of those I want to believe moments, but you and I have been burned enough times to know to rein in our excitement until we get a playable version in front of us. For now, wishlisting and following on Steam seems like a good idea, and if you want to see a list of already playable homeworld-like games, I have made a video like that before and will link it up here and down in the description. Once again, I want to thank my viewer for pointing this game out to me and invite you to do the same in the comments of videos such as this one, or in my own Discord server, invitation to which is in the description of this video. I know there are a few games I have yet to showcase which you have asked me to do, and trust me, they are on my to-do list. The second homeworld-inspired game is titled Phantom Havoc, and it comes from a homeworld modder. It too is limited to single player, and with good reason, since the modder turned indie developer wants to create his own lore and world in which you rebuild your civilization with the use of a persistent fleet, inside of which you can even directly control your most massive ships. There is an element of survival, exploration, research, and mission-by-mission story progression. The backstory doesn't look that deep right now, at least from the available info and clips, But what is most important is the gameplay, and that certainly seems to be well designed, with both a UI that is showing just enough to keep you immersed, while the huge megastructures fill up what would otherwise be a lot of empty space. There is also a tactical map already implemented and a diverse array of weapon systems for these ships. Unfortunately, I haven't located more footage of the fleet-based combat or movement or found an official Discord server for Phantom Havoc, so I hope to get that for you in a future video. And this difficulty in finding more new video content is something I run into often, and in some cases I end up having to make a public apology, like I want to do now to the developer of Falling Frontier, while showing you brand new footage of the game. Because, as it turns out, I was wrong in the last video to say that there wasn't any obvious large-scale progress shown in a year, because there was, but it was a bit obscurely posted since some of the latest gameplay footage and images were in the official Discord server's off-topic section. I mean, that just goes to show you how much are future players obsessed with Falling Frontier, when its off-topic Discord section is where you can get more news about the game itself. Since I ended up clearing things up with the developer himself after reading my last video's comments and finding that some viewers knew of this secret stash of new gameplay clips, now I'm going to use this opportunity to show you as many as I can. I should also mention that the developer explained to me the reason why these clips are not made easy to find. In his own words, and I quote, "These tend to be reserved for milestone updates, instead of smaller snippets that might not be representative of the product as a whole or could very much be subject to change. I like sharing snippets with my community here, but I am not ready to make more formal update videos yet, not until the next milestone anyway." So basically, those who are invested into following this game's development can figure out where to see the latest news and will understand its work in progress nature the best, while the developer tries to curate what comes out with the purpose of marketing so it doesn't create situations where he is later called out for something being shown but not actually found in the playable version. At least that is how I understood the reasoning. And I am okay with this idea, meaning I myself have to step up my research process for these games to present new footage in the correct light and not give fans and future players the wrong impression. To change the theme of games and the gameplay type, I want to now point your attention to a game very dear to me, which I have followed in early access for years and have enjoyed playing. This is Becastled, and its simple graphics and cute world cover up very fun gameplay you might miss out on if you judge it only by its appearance. The developers have been hard at work preparing a huge combat gameplay update, which will be made available on March 24th with a public beta starting on March 13th. What this base building and medieval fantasy RTS has going for it are a very cool system of land expansion, siege defense survival, terrific combat, and light settlement management. The maps used to be a limiting factor to gameplay, so now the devs are giving us tools to create and share our own maps. The sandbox mode, with its lack of restrictions, will let you explore these maps more easily and find your favorite ones. As for other new features this combat update brings to Becastled, there will be mini-bosses in battles from now on, which are bigger versions of regular units, but they are much tougher. In addition to that, you can summon a militia made up of your villagers as your last line of defense when all seems lost and your army is defeated. To make night battles easier to prepare for, the devs have implemented a new feature, which helps you see which direction you will be attacked from, so you can build up new walls and gates at that location. It is a small game, but offers a lot of fun, and I hope more of you will try it out.
It would be a sad error in judgment, General Solomon, to mistake me for a corpse.
My judgment is sound, King.
Another major update has happened for Command & Conquer games, and a whole lot of them in fact. I am not talking about the Command & Conquer Remastered collection here, but about everything from Tiberium Dawn to the infamous Tiberium Twilight, and even Generals and Red Alert games in between. because in an almost unprecedented move, Electronic Arts released the source code for Command & Conquer Tiberium Dawn, Red Alert, Renegade, Generals and Zero Hour on EA's GitHub page. This means modders, fans and CNC enthusiasts can do whatever they want with the games and there won't be any legal consequences for them. On top of that, EA has updated the mission editor and world builder tools across many of these games and added support for Steam's workshop. This includes Generals and Zero Hour, Tiberium Wars and Kane's Wrath, even the first-person shooter Renegade, and the least important Tiberium Twilight. On their YouTube channel, they have even posted a video which includes footage from the Command & Conquer archives showing alpha gameplay and prototype cinematics from several of these games. Now, I am personally not sure what this means for the future of more remastered editions, while it will certainly allow for more user-generated content for these old games. Is this EA's move to get good PR in preparation to reveal a new remastered version of some of these games? Or have they abandoned all plans for more such releases? I would love to read what you think about this in the comments below. And speaking of modding older CNC games, I want to talk about a huge mod called Dawn of the Tiberium Age, which has also received a new version lately. It now has new co-op and single-player missions, and besides engine improvements, the modders have rebalanced naval units. This standalone mod is a combination of Tiberium Dawn and the original Red Alert game, where you have GDI, NAD, Allies and Soviet factions all together and playable. Yes, you get the original single-player campaigns, but also many co-op missions and an especially smart skirmish AI to play against on about 200 different maps using any of the 4 factions. There is a dedicated Discord server for this standalone mod and everyone who enjoys playing its content, and the developers have spent a lot of time and effort to upgrade the engine everything works on. If you have never tried Dawn of the Tiberium Age before, it is a great time to do so now. As we all know, CNC games have inspired numerous new RTS, especially indie ones, so I want to show you the newest gameplay from one such title, Fractured Alliance. These indie devs are finalizing their own prototype demo for the purpose of finding a potential publisher. They have created a campaign mission, skirmish mode and custom multiplayer which shows their core gameplay mechanics, 2 factions and units. The 3rd faction is still in development. These factions are the United Federation, which is designed to be a high-tech powerhouse specializing in precision strikes, plasma defenses and devastating super weapons such as a super storm and stealth bomber runs. I am not sure if a call-in bombing strike can be called a super weapon, but they might change that in the future. The 2nd faction is the Eastern Alliance. They are based on heavily armored units, flamethrowers and a nuclear bomb superweapon with a large area of effect. The Work in Progress faction, called the Collective, is going to be a very different spin on what you consider normal RTS gameplay, because these indie devs are going to take a brave step and make it highly automated. This means less micromanagement, allowing new players to focus primarily on base building while their units move and fight on their own. This is quite different to some other new indie RTS games I have shown in my previous videos, where the base building or unit production is getting automated while letting the players focus on combat. Hopefully the developers' gamble works and many new players find their way into the RTS genre with Fractured Alliance. Now, in my quest to become a full-time content creator on YouTube, I have come up with a way for a triple win-win-win situation for me, you my viewers, and for game developers, like the one behind World Warfare and Economics, who are sponsoring this next segment. They have released a massive content and game overhaul update for their real-time world-encompassing strategy game in which you can take control of any country and try to keep it in one piece as the whole world goes to war with tanks, jets, helicopters, naval units, and even ICBMs. This update brings a new user interface which lets you manage just about everything that makes a country tick, from its budget and number of hospitals to research of new tech and recruitment of soldiers. They have reworked the core mechanics as well, starting with diplomacy and resource management all the way to intelligence gathering. There are more changes, of course, performance improvements, reduced loading times and memory usage, but enough of that, and let me talk more about the gameplay. For my very first playthrough, I chose Portugal to be safe under the NATO umbrella, check out the beaches, and in a short while watch as Russia declares war on Finland and launches long-range missiles into its cities and moves endless regiments of tanks into its territories. Oh boy, this isn't a game you learn in one sitting, that is for sure. Oh, and it is on sale right now through April 1st, but do watch out as tutorials are still soon to come. Another totally new RTS game, but one that you can already play on Steam, is Eyes of War. It had a full release at the end of January, and now it has been updated with the Age advancement system. Before I explain that one, for those who are seeing this game for the first time, I should tell you that it is both a single and multiplayer game, which is set in the medieval era and has an extra feature called the character mode, letting you control units directly. There is castle building as well, different game modes, one which is sort of an arena, and 4 nations with unique cultures, weaknesses and strengths to choose from. With this new Age advancement system, developers have divided access to units, buildings and technologies, making Eyes of War play closer to the likes of Age of Empires. There has been a lot of balancing improvements and bug fixes which also come with this update, and with this unique mix of first-person unit control and Age advancement, it is going to be interesting to see will this game amass enough players to keep the multiplayer alive. This is something most, if not all, new RTS games have a problem with, and it isn't unique to indie ones either. This is why Company of Heroes 3, which has been struggling to attract more players than its 10 years old predecessor, has had another free weekend, a 2.0 anniversary update, and a new DLC release. Relic has certainly been busy, you have to give them that at least. Now, as I regularly join in for these free weekends of Company of Heroes 3, I was very interested to get a feel for the changes they have implemented. And here I am torn. I am torn between telling you that the multiplayer and skirmish flow like butter left on the sun too long, and the occasional toxic player here and there, and on the other hand, telling you that the graphics are still cartoony, vehicles overlap each other, and the damn campaign cinematics still have glitchy activation after loading. You see the map for a second and then jump into a scripted sequence like it was made with duct tape and like they didn't have months and months to fix this crap. I am sorry folks, I just haven't yet managed to reconcile the new Relic with the old in my mind, and I still judge them on their 10 and 20-year-old work by people who are mostly not there anymore. Anyway, fan favorite maps from the first and second game have been added, the Italian campaign improved, and multiplayer balancing continues, but you will always find players posts explaining how something new got broken or unbalanced after these patches. Nothing new there. Ultimately, you can polish a turd to the level that you see your reflection in it, but it's still always going to smell like a turd. I'm sorry devs, I'm sorry to everyone enjoying some aspect of the game, but overall this was simply based on such poor design choices that it will obviously never be salvaged, especially the single player aspect. Playing skirmish and multiplayer is totally fine and lots of fun can be had, but as an overall product, I hope they learn from their mistakes and don't let publishers and their consultants ever again ruin their games to the core so much. In a totally different situation is the indie developer of the Scouring, whose low-content fantasy combat and base-building RTS demo ended up having over 1,000 concurrent players for a time. Yes, this game is tuned to our collective nostalgia for older such games, and yes, it looks, sounds and plays very similar to them. But there are also new and original ideas these games didn't have which have been implemented, and the developer hasn't been afraid to change these during the demo, considering he does patches very often and reads all the feedback players post about them, doing 180 turns on his design if the player base does not accept the changes. This kind of fast response and active change is rarely seen in indie RTS games, but the demo's limited content makes it easier to fine-tune a smaller number of elements. The healing potions, which have been its most controversial feature, can now even be turned off in the skirmish gameplay mode. If by any chance you haven't played this demo yet, in skirmish or multiplayer, I warmly recommend it and hope you give its developer your feedback and wishlist his game on Steam. Another game that is struggling to keep an active multiplayer player base is Stormgate. A few years ago, I didn't dream of saying a sentence like this, as it looked too good and too big to fail. But here we are today. What's new in the 0.3 update, besides the customizable hotkey system, are alternate hotkeys, as well as remove from control groups and steal to add to control group key combos. This update also came with a bunch of improvements, bug fixes, and quality of life changes like customization of automated control groups, cycling town halls, and more. I want to mention that they have now allowed flying units to overlap to move, but they can't attack when overlapped. This is called the flyer flocking design. They have also tweaked the abilities that launch a projectile to make them look better, be they horizontal or vertical with arcs. Special care has been spent on how units turn to make it smoother and more natural. In multiplayer, you will now notice a cooldown before a match starts after you load in, and pausing is also possible even in multiplayer, but there it is limited to 3 pauses per player. There are of course other changes like post-battle screens, art and effects, lighting, audio and music, and a host of balancing changes. You can read this huge list on the game's Discord or Steam news section. Now I'm going to circle back to a mod that was made by Company of Heroes community, and their focus was to create gameplay that is as realistic as possible while also being designed for PvP. But don't worry, you can play it in skirmish mode as well. This mod is called Company of Heroes Blitzkrieg, and I want to thank several of my viewers who suggested I showcase it in my videos. Installing it gives you 100 additional units, most being doctrine specific, and they come with new sounds, visual effects, and even new abilities. Naturally, most damage systems were changed, infantry squads became very easy to destroy, and AT guns got to actually be anti-tank and able to take them out far more easily. On top of this, weapon ranges were increased as well as max zoom out level, while vehicles got the ability to camouflage next to bushes and trees for better ambushes. These modders even expanded the number of doctrine unlocks to 16 and veterancy ranks to 5. If you have played it before, share your impressions in the comments for those who haven't. Since the successful launch of Sins of a Solar Empire 2, we have all been holding our collective breath, waiting to see what the announced half a dozen DLCs will look like. So on March 27th, we get to check out the first of these, titled Path to Power. The announced content is more than 10 new mission-driven scenario maps which will feature unique challenges, meaning we basically get specific goals we have to achieve to win the scenario. Additionally, this DLC brings ancient starbases to randomly generated maps. More info about these in a future video. The Steam page lists all the unique challenges. There is the old school King of the Hill style scenario called Defend the Homeworld, where you fight against waves of enemies as they attack your homeworld. A very different one, but using the lore well, is called All as One. It is designed to be played as Vasari Alliance, where solar systems are slowly being obliterated and you have to cooperate with your usually hostile neighbors to secure enough resources to escape before the timer runs out. They are definitely starting small and easy with the DLCs, while we over here are waiting for the single player campaign and the fourth faction to finally arrive and complete the game's content. Another full release on Steam is of a base building horror theme game some might not even call an RTS, but I still think many of you might like to play. It is titled Cataclismo, and on March 20th it is going to be updated with the final act of the campaign and 6 additional scenarios, along with an overhauled survival mode, a new biome called the Depths, changes to its hero character, enemies, and a new gameplay mechanic. That one is called the Darkness mechanic, and what it does is to make the new biome even more harrowing to play, because if your units don't have any light to fight under, they can't even hit enemies. Because of this, you have new construction items to add light to places where darkness prevails, especially since the new biome is playable in the campaign, survival, and skirmish game modes. The base building part of this game really sets it apart. Players among you who enjoy LEGO-like construction of medieval castles are going to love it. Now we come to the end of the video for a special announcement, because while the space-themed RTS and 4X game titled Ephemeris might have failed to reach its funding goal in the Indiegogo campaign, its alpha gameplay reached some wealthy investors who are now going to fund its development to the end. Its solo indie dev, who has been driving the development with the help and funding of friends and family for years, is finally going to be able to finish development with no monetary concerns and a proper team. I have showcased this game a number of times because I was impressed by the fleet-based space combat with ships of all sizes, following laws of physics in their movement, formations, and the ability to manually fly individual ones. Now the game has grown in scope as it has a 4X Civilization-like turn-based gameplay layer in addition to the real-time space combat gameplay. Expect a lot more news and updates on this future indie gem from now on, and if you haven't already, make sure to wishlist it on Steam. I actually have another 30 plus RTS game updates and news for you, so I will do my best to post another RTS news video as soon as possible. Until then, check out the cards on the screen for more real-time strategy games and videos. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!